Thanks everyone for joining. I know that this series started a couple weeks ago. It was the last week of August, and I'm sure folks were still kind of wrapping up summer things, or maybe kids were heading off to school. So it's good to see all of you here today and hopefully having a smooth transition into fall, which I think officially arrives in just another week or so. So as Maggie mentioned, I'm going to be here through the fall, and my intention each of these weeks, and I'll be teaching basically twice a month through first half of December, is to just offer a space for us to practice together, to offer really grounded, kind of simple foundational techniques for meditation practice that you can then go and work with on your own after the session, or in the coming weeks, if that feels good. And each week that I'm here, I'll be offering a different kind of practice, because in contemplative practices there's infinite ways that we can do it, right? And just because one way might work for one person doesn't mean that it might work for you. And I like to think about practice as kind of meeting and getting to know a new person or a new friend. And it might take some time to get familiar with it. It's like you're getting to know each other, but hopefully in time you'll get a sense of if that practice feels good or feels right for you. And in this space, I invite you to take great care of yourself. So I'm offering guidance. I'm offering, a sort of script to kind of play with and go with. But if at any point it doesn't feel right for you, you're welcome to kind of come back to one of the first grounding practices that we typically do, like just sensing your body or the temperature of the air around you. You're welcome to just rest with the breath. You're welcome to keep eyes open or closed, and you're welcome to be in a posture that feels good for you. So ideally a posture where you can feel awake, but also relaxed. And for some of us, that's seated. For some, it might be lying down. For some, it might be standing that day. If your mind feels like really active or you have a lot of energy and sitting feels too sort of restrictive. So I invite you to see what works for you. And today I wanted to lead us in with a practice on just allowing our attention to be exactly where we are in the present moment. Really, mindfulness meditation at its core, some would say, is about training our attention. And the reason that training our attention is so valuable and so transformative in many ways is because where our attention is, that typically dictates how we experience the world in some ways. So if our attention, for example, is on stuff that's going wrong or what could go wrong, or we're experiencing a lot of fear and anxiety, that's typically going to kind of impact the way that we're experiencing ourselves and the world. And if we're able to train our attention to be more, say, in the present moment, whether that's feeling sensation of our bodies or the sensation of breathing or just being really present with a close other, that's going to help to kind of train our minds to be open to a wider spectrum of experience. And that's not to say that tough stuff isn't happening in the world and that we need to like shut it out. But my intention in kind of expanding our scope of awareness is to support you all and to support us in being able to take in more of the good, more of the neutral, and really have this rich, like lush, multidimensional experience of being. So we'll start with that. And yeah, then we'll move into the second part of the practice, which is more about offering some soothing to our nervous systems, to our experience through positive affirmation. And for those of you who joined in the spring, we definitely did this practice. So you might be familiar with that. But this will involve just choosing a phrase or a few words that are like simple, short in the present tense, that cultivates wishes for loving kindness for ourselves. And this is a way for our attention to kind of rest on the phrases, a mindfulness aspect of the practice, but it's also practicing loving kindness and compassion in a caring, soothing way because the words are wishes for well being. So that's that. Let's practice. As usual, we'll start and end with a bell. And this practice will be about 12, 13 minutes or so. So just take a comfortable posture. If you need to shift partway through, that's okay too. But I'll see you on the other side, and welcome. So just settling into the posture that you've chosen in a way that feels even just like 10% more comfortable. So allowing yourself to adjust as needed. You're not locked in, you're not constricted. Just finding a posture that feels easeful, but where you also feel kind of awake, alert, alive. I typically like to close my eyes, but you're welcome to choose either letting the eyelids rest closed, closing the eyes, or allowing a soft gaze somewhere in front of you, not focused on anything in particular. And there's no need to shift or change anything in your experience right now. There's no need to perform or show up in a certain way. Just allowing yourself to kind of come to rest in your present moment experience by noticing where the surface beneath you or behind you kind of rises up to meet you to offer support. You might notice the texture of that surface. Is it soft? Is it more firm? Is it cool or warm? Just opening up our minds and hearts to the experience of the present moment. Continuing with this practice of presencing, I invite you to become aware of any temperature or texture you feel on your skin. So that might be warmth where you feel like clothing or a blanket touching the skin. Maybe a sense of coolness where the skin just meets the air. Again, there's no need to create an experience. And if nothing feels too kind of salient or apparent in temperature, that's okay. We're just opening up our awareness, being open to the possibility of sensing what's happening right now in this moment as we are. It's almost as if you're opening up to kind of listen to your experience with your whole body. So, not just the experience of like sound in the ears, but listening to the whole of your experience. It might be sound, it might be touch, it might be sensation. And perhaps from here, including in that listening, kind of a listening through sensing the breath. Maybe noting or noticing that Your breathing in its natural organic rhythm has been present this whole time, but it's only when we turn our attention to it that we actually notice it. You might notice that gentle rhythm of the rise of the inhale and the falling away of the exhale. You might notice sensation of the breath or temperature of it, like a coolness on the inhale and then a sort of warmth on the exhale. Probably through the nose, but if that's not possible, you might feel it in your mouth as well. Again, noticing if you're trying to make an experience happen or trying to rush something, and just taking a moment here as you continue to sense, to listen with your whole body. There's nowhere to go, there's nothing to do, there's no one to become in this moment. Just resting in the gentle rhythm of your own being, of your own experience. If questions come up like, am I doing it right? Or I'm thinking about so many other things, you're welcome to just notice those as part of your experience. No need to suppress them or try to kind of push them away or criticize yourself. As you notice the mind kind of wandering, the attention drifting, just giving yourself like a congratulations, a little bit of tenderness for noticing that wandering, and then noting you have a choice. Maybe you choose to kind of gather up your attention again and rest it on the rhythm of your breath, on your breathing body, the sensations you sense in this moment. With gentleness and with ease. Before we shift into the second part of this practice, I invite you to kind of savor this experience. So if you came into this practice kind of bracing yourself to have to focus or be mindful, et cetera, what might it be like to soften toward yourself, to just kind of melt into this present moment experience? Just being with yourself, sensation, breath, your body as you are. And maybe in this softening, in this tenderness toward yourself, you felt a sort of softening or a nodding in the area of your heart. Sometimes that happens when we practice tenderness or kindness toward ourselves. And if you didn't, that's okay. We're going to kind of invite that experience by resting our attention now on the area of the heart, the center of the chest. And that might feel like letting your attention kind of trickle down or rest down, maybe from the area of your head where we typically kind of focus the sense of self, because that's where thought and vision and such are. Just allowing it to kind of drop down into the area of the heart without forcing it. And if that's not happening for you, then maybe just opening to the possibility of that happening, softening toward that. And sometimes it can even help to gather your awareness, your attention there by resting a hand at heart center. So that's optional. If you'd like to just rest your palm there to feel that sense of physical, energetic warmth, you're welcome to do that. Maybe this is the first time today, or the first time this week, or in a while that you felt a sort of softening toward yourself. Maybe there's been a lot going on. So just be caring, be gentle with yourself in this moment. And we'll bring in the metta or loving kindness part of our practice now, continuing if it supports you to rest your attention, your awareness on the area of the heart, the softening, the opening, the spaciousness of the heart. And I'll repeat phrases that you're then welcome to repeat quietly to yourself or aloud, whatever feels good for you. And as we recite these phrases, allow the words and the sort of energy and power of them to really be digested by your whole system. So really allowing yourself to take them in. This will be a practice of loving kindness toward ourselves. May I be happy. May I be well. May I live with ease. May I be happy. May I be well. May I live with ease. May I be happy. May I be well. May I live with ease. Continuing to be comforted by the rhythm, the repetition of repeating those phrases to yourself. May I be happy. May I be well. May I live with ease. May I be happy. May I be well. May I live with ease. Again, if it helps to rest a hand at heart center to sort of welcome in that tenderness, that warmth towards yourself, I invite you to continue just repeating these phrases if that feels okay for you, allowing your attention to rest on not only the words, but the kindness, the love, the compassion infused in them, receiving them like a soothing balm to any challenges or kind of mental, social, emotional wounds or difficulties you've been experiencing. May I be happy. May I be well. May I live with ease. If any tension arises in your body, like in the jaw or the furrow of the eyebrows, sometimes that happens when we're directing our focus intently on something. So if that happened, just noticing and maybe seeing if it's possible to continue really resting your attention on these phrases, taking them in without tensing up or, yeah, having to work to focus. Let it be restful. Taking a couple more moments here, maybe wrapping up with repeating the phrases one more time fully. And then letting those come to rest, just coming back to the whole of your breathing body, noticing any shifts, maybe in your mind, your mental activity, your heart, your body, your nervous system, your experience of yourself in this moment. And taking a few deep breaths in through the nose, if that's possible, and then out through the mouth. And then at the sound of the bell, sealing your practice, maybe with a gesture if that feels good, or even just like a squeeze of the tops of the legs. And then coming back to our shared space. Okay, everyone. So just taking your time to come back. If you need to stretch, you need a sip of water, coffee, tea, just taking good care of yourself. And also I'll say about that practice, and hopefully this can be intuited, but if not, I'll say it now. You can use phrases that feel most resonant for you wherever you are and whatever you're experiencing. So I chose a pretty standard sort of meta phrasing, like, may I be happy, may I be well, may I live with ease, or may I live in peace. But if there's something more specific you're working with, just using that phrasing of may I and then kind of fill in the blank, you have agency to shift and change that to what works for you. The contrast of choosing to practice, like, almost especially in a busy time, or when we're feeling kind of loud and noisy up here, or busy, or in a space, it can be even that much more medicinal, I think, sometimes. And then I will say, just on the note of space, for those of you who are practicing at home, it can be helpful to sort of choose a space in your home that you do this practice in, if you're doing it daily or frequently, and it kind of charges the space. So it lets your whole kind of mind and brain and body system know that, oh, when I go to this, even if it's a corner of a room, it's time to practice. I don't know if you've ever noticed that in other spaces in your home. It's like, if you go to, I'm thinking of, yeah, going to like a den or a living room where there's a television, it's like, oh, automatically, like, sitting down on the couch, grabbing the clicker, because that's what happens in that space. Or, um, yeah, in an office space, like home office space, you might sense yourself feeling kind of ready to work. And in terms of contemplative or meditation spaces, we want it to be a space that feels kind of separate from other spaces. And again, that could just be a simple, like, corner of a room that you set up with a specific cushion or a blanket, just to signal your system, oh, it's time to practice.